humans had language, before we had fire, before we even had tools, we were already getting drunk. Not because we chose to, because our brains were built for it. And the story of how that happened goes back not thousands of years, but 10 million. And here's the part nobody talks about. Alcohol didn't show up after civilization. There's growing evidence that civilization showed up because of alcohol. Let me explain. In 2014, a biologist at UC Berkeley named Robert Dudley published a book called The Drunken Monkey. His argument was simple, but kind of mind-blowing. When fruit falls from a tree and sits on the ground, the natural sugars inside start breaking down. Yeast gets in, fermentation begins, and the fruit starts producing small amounts of ethanol, basically weak alcohol. When our primate ancestors ate that fruit, the ethanol made them feel good. They didn't know why, they just knew they wanted more. So over millions of years, we didn't just tolerate alcohol, we evolved to seek it out. The taste for it was wired into us long before anyone figured out how to make it on purpose. But when did they figure that out? The answer is going to surprise you. In 2018, archaeologists were digging inside a cave near Haifa, Israel, called Raqefet Cave. It was used by a group called the Natufians about 13,000 years ago. Inside, carved directly into the bedrock, they found stone mortars. The residue inside? Wheat and barley, soaked, germinated, and fermented. That's beer, brewed in a cave, 13,000 years ago. But here's what makes this discovery actually insane. The Natufians were not farmers. They hadn't invented agriculture yet. They were still hunting animals and collecting wild grain by hand. They didn't grow the barley, they found it. And somehow, the first thing they thought to do with it was make alcohol. So the story we always heard, that humans settled down, started farming, then eventually discovered fermentation, might be completely backwards. These people were brewing before they were farming. And they weren't alone. Around 1,000 years later, someone in southeastern Turkey built something that still confuses archaeologists today: Göbekli Tepe. Massive stone pillars, some weighing over 10 tons, arranged in precise circles, carved with detailed animal imagery. Built before farming, before pottery, before anyone in the region had a permanent home. For years, the question was the same. Why would nomadic hunter-gatherers organize the labor to drag 10-ton stones up a hill? Then they found large stone vats at the site, tested them. Fermented grain. These people weren't just building a structure, they were building a place to come together and drink. People traveled from across the region for ritual feasting, which brings up the biggest question in all of this. An archaeobotanist named Patrick McGovern, the world's leading expert on ancient alcohol, has spent decades arguing something controversial. Humans didn't start farming to make bread. They started farming to make beer. Think about it. Bread requires grinding, kneading, baking, a whole process. Beer? You soak grain in water, leave it alone, and fermentation does the rest by itself. The desire to drink was a stronger motivator than the desire to eat grain in a slightly different form. If he's right, and the evidence is stacking up, alcohol isn't something that appeared after we built civilizations. It might be the reason we built them. By 7000 BCE, archaeologists found pottery jars in a village in China containing residue from a fermented drink made of rice, honey, grapes, and hawthorn berries. The oldest confirmed alcohol recipe on Earth. And it wasn't crude, it was a blend. Whoever made it knew exactly what they were doing. Fast forward to ancient Egypt. Beer wasn't a luxury, it was a currency. Workers who built the pyramids were paid in beer, 4 to 5 liters a day. That was their salary. And it made sense. Nile water was often contaminated, but beer, because of the brewing process, was safer to drink. It also added calories and nutrients for laborers dragging limestone blocks in desert heat. Beer was doing the job of a paycheck, a water filter, a meal, a medicine, and a prayer, all from the same cup. So here's the full picture. 10 million years ago, your ancestors were drawn to fermented fruit because it felt good. 13,000 years ago, they were deliberately brewing in caves before they knew how to farm. 12,000 years ago, they may have built the first monuments in human history just to have a place to drink together. 9,000 years ago, they had recipes. 5,000 years ago, entire civilizations were running on it. Alcohol didn't come after we built the world. There's a real possibility it's the reason we built it. Every time you have a drink, you're continuing something that started before your species even had a name for itself. The cups got fancier, the process got cleaner, but the impulse? It's the same one that made a small primate reach for a piece of overripe fruit on a forest floor 10 million years ago. We just learned how to make it on purpose.